Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Rocky, and today I'm going to talk about or share from my experience about how you can land your first tech job in Finland. I've been in Finland for close to 6 years now, and in that time, I've worked in various tech roles, including machine learning and data science, for about 4 to 5 years now. And I hope you find these tips and tricks useful to land your first tech job. Right. Before I get to starting off with the tips that I want to share, first I want to tell you that if you are coming from a technical background in the tech sector and you're looking to land your first job, now you might have questions like we've all heard of the fact of how Finnish language knowledge can be a barrier when trying to enter the job market in Finland. But I have to tell you, if you belong to the tech sector, that you definitely have an advantage because it's very different in the tech sector, right? So there are lots of opportunities in the tech sector. Finland is known for all of its advanced research and work in the tech sector, but also the working culture where you see more internationals, most of the time an English speaking culture as well, where you do not really need to speak Finnish to find a job in Finland. So let's roll on to number one. And number one, this might kind of sound kind of obvious, but I do want to mention this because I know so many people, including myself, when I was a student, uh, I had neglected this, which was your online presence on LinkedIn, right? So if you're still a student and you just graduated and you're looking to land your first tech job, first thing you need to do is get your LinkedIn profile in shape, right? Update all of the details about your education and maybe any internships you've done. So get your LinkedIn looking in tip-top shape. And that is also because that's the place, I would say, the number one place where you need to be looking for jobs. There are, of course, other websites that advertise jobs, but especially tech jobs, big tech companies, they almost always advertise on LinkedIn. So number one is get your LinkedIn in shape. If you're not on LinkedIn, please get on LinkedIn, make a profile, and be there, right? That is number one. And the number two, now this is something I've learned from my experience, right? Working here for 5 years, is that I would recommend you to prioritize companies that value and promote diversity and internationalization, right? Now, why I say this is because obviously you're going to have to spend a lot of time when researching companies. You might be applying because it is your first job. You might be applying to more than one company, right? You just want to enter the field, your first step on the door. So you might be applying to many companies, researching a lot of companies, and this might be a time consuming process. And how you can kind of avoid disappointments later on, because you don't want to be in a situation where you do all of the legwork of going to the interviews and somehow that there is a mismatch in expectations and the role requires you to maybe speak or work in Finnish, right? So I would always recommend you to do that research upfront and try to look for companies that value and promote diversity, as well as there's an English speaking atmosphere. Now this is because I say this because there are definitely opportunities in the tech sector where you can use your already existing skills in an English speaking environment, right? And moving on to number three. Number three is what I would call specialization. Now, when you're first starting out your career, maybe like I said, this is your first job, it's very unlikely that you might have had specialized in something. But you might be open to lots of things. But still, if in your studies you have specialized in something, maybe in your electives or your last year or your minor subjects, right? This can be a real advantage for you because doing a specialization shows interest and passion, right? And it can make you stand out from the rest of the applicants. Now, for example, in my experience, I first entered the field having specialized in machine vision. Now, about 6, 7 years ago, the machine vision was still a new field, so that gave me a real edge when I was applying for jobs, because I was able to apply to software companies working on machine vision related software. Now, once I had entered into the tech field, then I can follow other interests and build my own unique background based on what I find interesting. But if you could also, let's say, try to try to improve your skills on topics that are already hot now. For example, AI and machine learning is a really hot field right now, and then you have cloud computing, maybe mobile computing, and cybersecurity and fields like this. But also, it doesn't have to always be what's hot and popular, right? Maybe if you found something else interesting, something that's not on the radar, but something that you find interesting, that uniqueness, that individual advantage or individual uniqueness that you bring to the table can be of great benefit. And it's also up to you to highlight this when you are presenting yourself in interviews as well as on your resumes, right? To highlight uh, that uniqueness that you bring to the table. And that's about specialization. Moving on, I have number 4 is internships and summer jobs. Right now, also again, because it's your first job, I'm assuming you don't have a lot of prior experience working here in Finland, but maybe you've done an internship, maybe you've done even a summer job that has nothing to do with technology, right? For example, my first summer job when I first came to Finland, I worked, I hope my friends are watching this, they'll remember I worked in a strawberry farm, right? It was a great experience, right? And then when I was applying for jobs, and I went to one of these career recruitment events, and just to get some advice about how to apply for jobs, and something they mentioned is that you should put that on your resume, because here in Finland, your work ethic, whether it relates to your field or whatever it is, it's really valuable, because it means that you've gone somewhere else, done something else, and learned something. So I'm not saying you need to write paragraphs about that, but just mention it. This is where you have maybe done a summer internship. This is where you have volunteered. Just mention that, so it shows that you've done something productive and maybe learned something new there, right? So do not leave these things out, especially if you don't have any previous formal employment experiences. Make sure you mention these in your resume. The fifth one is recommendations. Now, you know that there is a part in your resume where, for example, you write your bio, maybe a small introduction about yourself, about your passions, and what you're really looking for in this job. Now, what has kind of worked for me over the years is that I like to introduce myself based on a recommendation that someone else has given me, right? Someone I respect, someone have worked with, maybe a professor, maybe a previous employee when I did an internship, because I think that is really valuable. And especially here in Finland. Here in Finland, lots of things work based on trust. So even in the Finnish labor market, you see that these markets are kind of closed as you'd like them to be. And for you to enter that market, there has to be some kind of trust. And usually, if you can get a recommendation, maybe now in your case, maybe you don't have actual experience, but maybe you did an internship, right? And if you could get a recommendation from that person, and if that person, or if it's a company here in Finland, a recommendation from such a person can actually vouch for you, and it can go a long way. Or maybe you've just done your master's, and maybe you can talk to your study coordinator or your professor and get that sort of recommendation. And that recommendation coming from someone who's actually here working in Finland, whether in the academics or in the industry, can really, in my experience, can make a big difference. So I really recommend you to get recommendations, right? And the next one is, now we all know, of course, if you are in the tech sector, maybe you've done some hobby projects. And of course, I hope you have a GitHub profile, right? You've written some code somewhere. So do not forget to link this, and also your LinkedIn profile that I spoke about previously, to your resume, so that when you send a PDF, your resume PDF to someone, they can instantly access your GitHub account and see the hobby project, something you've done recently, and also access your LinkedIn profile. And the last one is be on time. Now, I know if you've already lived here in Finland, this should come as a no-brainer to you. But if you're new to Finland, right, maybe this also applies to if you're applying outside of Finland and you want to land your first tech job for some reason, you want to come here. and you want to land your first tech job in Finland, please be on time, because punctuality is really valued here in Finland. And if you disrespect someone's time, that means you actually disrespect that person, and it's a really bad impression. So always make sure you be on time for interviews, and if for some reason you cannot show up, make sure you communicate that well before the time, right? So these are the things that I wanted to talk to you about. I think I've shared some real good tips that will help you. By the way, so if you enjoyed this, hit the thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. And I hope you enjoyed this. And I wish you guys all the best. Hang in there. I think right now this is a little bit of a difficult time for job hunting, but definitely if you make these moves and hang in there, I'm sure you will find something great. Thank you, and I'll meet you in another video.